Well, hello again, everybody. This is Paul Tidwell and my wife, Alexis Tidwell. And we would like to welcome everybody to the call today. We really appreciate everybody that tuned in last week. This is week 3 in a series of calls that we will be doing in the future. And we appreciate everybody being on the call. We had some really good response last week. And listen, Alexis and I are just the messengers. Collectively, we have almost 50 years worth of experience in the wellness industry as professionals. And, I like to say, first and foremost, we are students. And then second of all, we like to take what we have learned throughout our adult lives working in this industry and just pass that information along and share that with you. So with that being said, today we're going to talk about metabolic enhancers, what they are, what that means. We're going to talk about healthy weight management. There's a lot of controversy out there. There's a lot of fad diets. I don't even like that term. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Metabolic enhancers, a lot of people like to call them fat burners. There's tons of them in the marketplace. There's a lot of controversy around them. There's a lot of hype around that. And what we're going to do is focus today on One Vision's wonderful products. They've got 3 great products, the Revive Core, the Revive Hardcore, and the Ignite. And that is going to be our focus for today's call. Disclaimer, Alexis?
Yeah, well, I'd also like to welcome everybody and just let you know that I'm very passionate to be here. I'm passionate about this subject and just really excited to share this information. We value your time. We have a lot to cover today. And so before we get started, I just want to do the FDA disclaimer. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA, and we do not claim to treat, prevent, or cure any diseases. And with that, we'll get started. As Paul said, we're going to talk about One Vision's metabolic enhancers. And we are also, as promised, going to talk about secrets to burn even more fat, healthy weight management, and why are so many Americans overweight in the first place. I really want to talk about that because I want to get everybody's attention. The statistics are staggering. About almost 75% of American men are either overweight or obese, and the number on the women is 60% of American women are either overweight or obese. And we have more overweight and obese people living in our world in America than any other country out there. And this one really is alarming to me, that 30% of our children, and I know I get emotional about this because I care so much about our kids, 30% of them are overweight or obese. And this number was only 19% in 1980, and it's gone up 50%. And this might explain, I graduated from high school in 1985. And when I went to high school, there weren't a lot of people that were overweight. It was maybe, one person in each one of my classes. And now when I pick up my kids at their high school and I look at all these kids walking around, it's unbelievable to me how many of them are so overweight. And I will stop with that. But these overweight kids, not only are these diseases affecting adults, but they're also affecting our kids. Things like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancers. And what's really sad about this is our kids are looking around at other people and they're thinking, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm normal, because they're looking around at all the other people and they're overweight too. And we need to be role models for our kids. It was interesting, I saw something on the internet that psychologist Nicholas Christakis says it gets a little bit psychological. As a person's social contacts gain weight, it seems to change the person's idea about what an acceptable body size is. This may result in the person, him or herself, gaining weight, or even if it does not, it makes the person more accepting of other people's weight gain. And so we really need to pay attention to this, people. We have a huge responsibility to our youth. We have to be their role models. We have to show them that there is a better way. Now, if you saw my last 2 talks, you know that I've got to talk about sugar. When we talked about balance, I talked about how sugar feeds the unfriendly bacteria in our gut, and how and then when we talked about the Amazon Power Blend, we learned that sugar causes free radical damage. Well, the other really important thing that sugar does is it causes weight gain, especially belly fat. There's two really, I can't get into a lot of detail on this, but there's two really great videos out there that I would highly recommend that you guys should go and watch. The first one is called That Sugar Film. It's a documentary. You can find it on Amazon. The second one is Sugar, The Bitter Truth. It goes into a lot of detail about sugar and explains why so many Americans are overweight. I just want to highlight a few things about what Dr. Robert Lustig says in that video, but he talks a lot about high fructose corn syrup. And, in 1966, high fructose corn syrup was introduced to America. In 1967, Gatorade was patented. In 1992, Pepsi buys Gatorade, and guess what? They add a ton of high fructose corn syrup. And if you think about it, who's drinking the Gatorade? They're not the athletes, they're our children. Paul was looking on the internet this morning, and there was a Gatorade drink just for kids that are involved in soccer. And we have a daughter that plays soccer. This drink had 37. Yeah, no. This drink had 37 grams of sugar, and I, as a mother, I find that extremely offensive. You guys need to understand something about high fructose corn syrup. It turns into fat quicker than any other sugar, and the reason it does this is because when you eat food, there are two hormones that are stimulated. There's insulin and leptin. Insulin balances our sugar levels, and leptin tells your body that you're full, so you should put down your fork or stop drinking something. Well, high fructose corn syrup bypasses those two hormones, and it goes straight into your fat cells. And so somebody can sit down and drink a huge drink with tons of high fructose corn syrup and still be starving.
And it's literally, Alexis, why it's why people, most people get up, and I just want to interject a little bit, so hold that thought. But most people will get up in the morning and maybe have a little bit to eat for breakfast. And most people that we deal with and we've dealt with over the years, we've specialized in sports and performance nutrition for the bulk of our adult lives. We used to own nutrition stores in Utah, and that was our specialty. So weight management was about 90% of our business. So we've been around this a long time, but I've just discovered that most people, they'll eat breakfast, they'll skip lunch, and then maybe have a late dinner. But during the day, they're drinking, soda pop, and that soda pop usually has caffeine or some other stimulants in it, and then it's gotten really crazy with all the, Monster drinks and Rockstar and Energy and Red Bull over the years. Mm-hmm. And what happens is when you drink this, like Alexis said, that due to the lack of leptin, you're never full. And with the caffeine as a diuretic, so when you're drinking that as a stimulant, it makes you more thirsty. And so this is just a vicious cycle. You keep drinking more and more, more beverages throughout the day. And again, like Alexis said, that those copious amounts of sugar that you can continually take in, your body doesn't waste that energy. If your metabolic rate, if you're not burning those calories, your body is storing that energy, and it stores it in the lipocytes. And I want to interject here with a few more statistics. Weight management is a $60 billion industry, folks. It's a lot. 75 million Americans are actively trying to lose weight at some point during the year. So if you factor that out, that's about $800 per person. Diet pills and meal replacements make up about 3 billion of that 60 billion. And again, 3 out of every 4 Americans are overweight. And, it's one of those topics that's very, very sensitive. Sometimes when we talk, it's a little bit offensive and to some people that I don't think anyone that's on this call, because you know what, we're all on a wellness journey, and it doesn't matter where we're at. Like we said in the last 2 calls, the most important thing is that you're on that journey. So if you're on this call as something that you're concerned about, my goodness, I'm concerned about it all the time. I started using One Vision's products a little over 3 months ago, and I've dropped an extra 35 pounds of unnecessary fat that I just didn't need to pack around. And it was because my diet was not in check. And I know what I'm doing, folks. I know how to cut weight. It's absolutely crazy. The diet industry is overshadowed by the fast food industry. That's a $300 billion industry annually. That's every year. And if you add the other 100 billion in junk food, that's $500 billion just between fast food and between the junk food industry. It's alarming. It's absolutely alarming. And we wonder why we have a health crisis in this country. You know, obesity and people that are, you know, being overweight and obesity contribute to about 80% of the known disease in this country. And it absolutely breaks my heart. Alexis and I were at a concert, my nephew's choir concert before graduation, a little over a month ago. And it was really, really sad to see some of these kids up on stage. And I just turned to Alexis and I was crying from the inside, you guys. It's something that we're extremely passionate about, and we're just here to share our information with you guys. You know, the weight loss industry is kind of at a crossroads right now. You know, corporate America is marketing a lot of hype. There's a lot of propaganda out there because they want your dollars. They want to get in your pocketbook and your bank account, and they want you to use their products. And but people are starting to wake up, and it's because of programs like this and the consumer that's getting sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know, with weight loss being such a huge industry, why are the statistics slowly going up? Why do we have 3 out of 4 people overweight and obese today when you know, the weight loss industry has been on, you know, going full blast for the past 2 decades? But the landscape's changing. Americans are looking for more lifestyle solutions. One Vision, where we talk about core health, and that's the backbone and that's the foundation of what we do here at One Vision. So, you know, there's never been a better opportunity to be involved. And anyways, I just needed to throw those stats out there, and I'll let Alexis kind of pick up from here and continue.
Yeah, I just wanted to just take off from where Paul left off. About the drinks, you know, drinking those sugar beverages all day. You know, our companies like Coca-Cola and McDonald's, you know, they're lying to us. Dr. Ludwig in his movie, The Sugar, the Bitter Truth, he talks about the Coca-Cola. He calls it the Coca-Cola conspiracy. And I just want to throw these numbers at you really quick, okay? The first bottle of Coke came out in 1915. If you drank that bottle every day for a year, you would gain 8 pounds of fat. The second bottle of Coke came out in 1955. It was 10 ounces. That was the first one found in the vending machines. In 1960, a 12-ounce size came out. If you were to drink the 12-ounce size every day for a year, you would gain 16 pounds of fat. Today we have several sizes. If you drank the 20 ounce every day for a year, you would gain 26 pounds of fat a year. The 44 ounce, you would gain 57 pounds of fat. And if you drank the 60 ounce, you would gain 112 pounds of fat. So right there, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that Americans are overweight, but we really need to pay attention to that. I mean, those numbers are staggering. So I just want to challenge everybody out there to get rid of all the liquid sugar in your homes. And the other thing I touched on before is sugar directly makes your tummy fatter. And when you do that, when your tummy gets fatter, your estrogen levels go up. Not just in women, but in men too. And your testosterone goes down. Now, estrogen is the female hormone, right? And testosterone is that sexy male hormone. And we all need to strive for more testosterone, even us women. And I know Paul wanted to talk about this a little bit, about the demasculinization of men that is happening in our country.
You know, again, I'm kind of an old timer, and, you know, approaching 53 years old. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to learn over the years, and that I've been in an industry, passionate about an industry where I've been able to stay on top of and manage my weight over the past quarter century. But I've noticed a big change out there, and we talk a lot about it in some of the inner circles in the fitness center that I train at, and it's the demasculization of the American male. And for you men out there that are drinking soda pop and juices and things like that, that extra weight as a guy causes the production of estrogen in the body. That's a female hormone. Now, guys have a little bit of that naturally, just as women have testosterone. And we could go on and on and on about this. It's a topic that I could literally spend 1 or 2 hours focusing on. But I've noticed that. And not only does it affect a man physically, but it affects a man from a mental standpoint as well. I'll refrain from using terminology that we use out there to describe the upper torso in a man that starts to look like a woman over time if you're not careful, but that's due to estrogen, and you're starting to see that in children as well. And it's alarming in that it leads for a lower quality of lifestyle as you get older. And you guys, I call it the compound effect. These are things that we don't really think a lot about when we're young. And they're the things that are, it's easy to do this and it's easy not to do it. Over time, you take someone my age that's been ignorant and just hasn't done the research or just doesn't care for whatever other reason. After 20 or 30 years of abusing the body, it's called the compound effect. It adds up. And it's very, very difficult once you are 50 or 60 years old to try to reel that in and get that under control. It's a lot easier to maintain. It can be done. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. Just a healthy, how do we lose body fat from a healthy standpoint? Because there's a lot of crazy things you can do out there. There's a lot of diets that are very popular right now. There's a ketone diet that's out there. You know what? When we got started in this industry, Alexis, as I was cutting weight for a bodybuilding show almost 20 years ago, I did what was called the Body Opus diet, and it's a tweaked version of the Atkins diet, which has now been tweaked again, and it's a ketone diet. It's very, very effective, but it's not a long-term solution, you guys. We're meant to eat carbohydrates and fats and proteins. We're not meant to, we're not supposed to deprive ourselves from any one of those nutrients for a long period of time. So the key is just moderation and knowing what you're eating. Two of the greatest things you could do is if you would just avoid hydrogenated fat and high fructose corn syrup, you would be amazed at how healthy you could get in a short period of time, because we all are victimized by the industry, the fast food restaurants and the places that we go, and the food that we purchase at the grocery stores. If you're not conscious of the labels and you're looking out for these things, it's very, very easy to get these in your diet. Over time, it has drastic, effects on the body, and leads to disease and discomfort as you get older, and sometimes even at a younger age.
And there's several ways we can raise our body's testosterone, and if you raise your testosterone, you're going to burn more fat. I just wanted to kind of touch on those a little bit. Of course, losing weight is going to raise the body's testosterone. High intensity exercise, like when you work out really hard for 20 or 30 seconds, you take a 10-second break, work out really hard again. I go to an exercise class called Tabata where we do that. We work out really hard for 20 seconds and then rest for 10 seconds. That's a great way to raise the body's testosterone level. Intermittent... go ahead.
Folks, for those of you that don't have access to a fitness center, and I just want to give our program a plug right here. The Elevate Fitness program that Kiva's put together is a fantastic program. If you're not familiar with that, I would encourage you to get on One Vision's homepage and just do some research on that and get involved. It's very, very inexpensive, and it's a great way to get your exercise in the comfort of your own home, or if you're traveling or on the road. It's a great way to participate in that. And you don't have to seek out a fitness center or something like that. So anyways, Kiva's doing an outstanding job with that, and I just want to thank her for putting that program together, and thank One Vision for having a program like that for us to use and utilize, and as part of our wellness program.
And it can be done in other ways too, you guys. Like you can go out for a walk and run as hard as you can, sprint for 20 seconds, and then walk for 10 seconds, or sprint for a minute and walk for 30 seconds. You know, you can do it several different ways. There's so much information out there. You just need to get on and investigate it a little bit. Another way you can raise the body's testosterone is by strength training, by lifting weights, reducing stress, like I said before, eliminating sugar. Another great way to raise the body's testosterone is by eating healthy fats, like avocados, nuts, you know, all those things that the government tells us to stay away from. You need to eat them. Eggs are a great source of fat and great at raising the body's testosterone. I think Paul wanted to touch on that a little bit. I know we need to start talking about the products here, but did you want to talk about eggs?
We're doing okay on time. So, you know, it used to be, even as not that long ago, 20 years ago, eggs were kind of a bad thing. And, you know, there's a story out there. I've done some research about Crisco and Procter and Gamble. And, you know, Crisco has been around for a long time. You know, Procter & Gamble set out in the 60s to demonize lard and butter, which was typically what women were cooking with and baking with back, you know, as far as I can remember. I remember my grandmother using those products. I remember my mom using, you know, lard and butter to cook with. And then all of a sudden, Crisco came about in the 60s, and we switched over to that. Folks, that is hydrogenated vegetable oil. It is not good for you. And anyways, it was around that same time that the dairy industry was taking a big hit, and there was a lot of money being transferred back then by corporate America into other coffers and other pockets to demonize the dairy industry. And also, and eggs fell victim of that also. And, you know, we used to think that eggs were really high in LDL, which is the low density lipoproteins, and that they caused high cholesterol levels in folks, and it's just not the case. That is one of the biggest myths out there. Eggs are very, very healthy. I eat boiled eggs every day. I eat probably more eggs now than I ever have, and I feel great. They're loaded full of really good healthy fat for you guys, and they're really high in protein. And eggs are a good thing, and they make for a great snack. So, anyways, just I could go on forever about that, and I'll just leave it at that.
We should all have our own chickens and be raising our own eggs. They're extremely good for you.
And I'm jealous of you folks, and I know you're watching right now in Idaho that have your own farms and your own hens. And I think I made a joke the other day. If I had hens in my backyard right now, they would be baked chickens. So, but that's awesome that you guys have access to those eggs up there. And
okay, and then the next thing I wanted to talk about is why exercise is so important. It does not make up for our diet, so I just want you guys to know that. If you're eating a ton of sugar and a ton of high fructose corn syrup, you can exercise all you want, and it's not going to make that much difference. It might make a little bit of difference, but not a lot. Really, 80% of it is diet. And, just eating healthy, avoiding the sugar, and eating, the good fats and the good protein and all of that. But what exercise does do for us is it does help us to manage healthy weight. It does improve insulin sensitivity. It brings down your insulin so that it suppresses your appetite, so you don't want to eat as much. It reduces stress and cortisol release. And I like exercise for the mere fact that it makes me feel more confident. It makes me feel like I can take on my day. We wanted to touch a little bit about ways you can burn even more fat. I'll just go into this, and if you want to interject anywhere, feel free.
You're doing great.
But if you wait 30 minutes after you work out to eat anything, you will burn more fat, because what happens is after you work out, you're in your fat burning zone, and as soon as you eat something, it's going to spike your insulin level and stop you from burning fat. So it's kind of a trick just to wait like 30 minutes, but you don't want to wait too long because then you affect the growth hormone that's going on. If you lift first and then do cardio, you're going to burn more fat. If you do cardio first thing in the morning, you're going to burn more fat. And if you do cardio first thing in the morning, try not to eat anything that's going to spike your insulin level. You're going to have a handful of almonds or a boiled egg or just a little protein and fat, and that's not going to spike your insulin level and help you to burn more fat. It's really important to lift weights because you're going to have more muscle tissue, which is going to burn more fat. Eating 5 small meals per day is going to rev up the body's metabolism. Don't eat past 7 p.m. And that kind of goes along with intermittent fasting and raising the body's testosterone. But if you're really serious about losing weight, try not to eat anything after 7 p.m. And if you do, make sure it's some healthy protein and some healthy fats and not something that has a lot of refined carbohydrates.
You know, Alexis, when when people ask me, I always say use the 3-hour rule of thumb. And if you're going to be physically active, and this is, I'm talking about the evening hours. Obviously, in the summer, we have, the daylight hours are extended later into the evening, and we're a lot more active in the summer months here in this country because of the weather's, the weather's nice, and we take advantage of that. But use the 3-hour rule of thumb. If you're going to be physically active for the next 3 hours, it's okay to eat starchy carbohydrates a little bit. If you're going to be relaxing in the comforts of your home or you're going to a movie, you're better off to stick with fibrous vegetables and protein and not so much on the starchy carbohydrates. So that's just another trick that you can do. The Amazon Power Blend, I like to take that later in the day because that helps curb my appetite at night. It just kind of gives me that satisfied feeling. And after 5 or 6 o'clock at night, if I'm not going to be out mowing the lawn at 9 o'clock at night or out chasing the dogs around the neighborhood or my kids, I really try to keep my carbohydrate intake at a minimum, if anything at all. So those are just little tricks that you can do too that will help. And again, it's doing this over the long haul, over a long period of time, that you're going to see the most benefits. So,
okay, I think we should talk about our products.
So, right now, you got one thing that I want to throw out there, you guys, and I do want, I'm going to put out another disclaimer there. So, if you're really heavy set and and you need to lose a lot of weight, I always say consult with a physician first before you take metabolic enhancers, fat burners. I call them metabolic spark plugs. And again, here at One Vision, we focus on core health. Ignite and Revive Hardcore. They are short-term solutions. Those are tools to help you with your weight loss goals. They're very good at increasing the metabolism and burning fat. There's some ingredients in there that we're going to talk about right now. But they're not intended to be used indefinitely. The stimulants, if you use them for a long time without taking a break, they will desensitize the receptor sites, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we talk about some of the ingredients and how they affect lipocytes and the receptor sites in your fat cells. But if you use these long term, what happens is the body naturally starts to shut these receptor sites down. It desensitizes them because it's trying to counterbalance what you're doing. And they also can tax the adrenals when you're using products that contain caffeine and some of these other things. If you're using those for a long period of time, they really tax your adrenals and can affect your immune system that way. So use caution. Like I said, I don't call them part of your core, your core products. Your core products are the Amazon Power Blend and the Balanced Prebiotic. Those are products that you should use indefinitely, and you should take them every single day. So the first product we're going to talk about is the Revive Core. And the Revive Core there's less of an energy focus with this and more of a neurotransmission or neuroignition. And one of the first ingredients in here is rhodiola rosea, and that is very similar to ginseng. Most of us know what Panax ginseng is, and it's an adaptogen. It's kind of it's a compound that makes you feel really good, and it gives you natural energy. It's not a central nervous stimulant. The other product in there is DMAE. DMA is a compound that helps with cognitive function, and it actually increases acetylcholine in the brain. Choline is actually brain food, and I won't get into that. This is just an overview. We're going to spend time in the future and kind of break these ingredients down even more and spend more time talking on them. This is just kind of an overview of the products. The focus part of this is actually 225 milligrams, almost 226 milligrams of the following: rhodiola and DMAE. The fat burning component in here, or the metabolizer, there's 212 milligrams of the following. And caffeine, I don't really need to go into caffeine. The caffeine that's in here is natural. There's a big difference between synthetic caffeine, the type of caffeine that you get in products like No-Dose or things like that you buy over the counter at CVS or Rite Aid or Walgreens or your big box stores. There is a big difference. Caffeine's always better to take it in its natural state. The body processes it and deals with it, metabolizes it a lot better. It's a lot easier on your central nervous system without going into a lot of that. So caffeine, it's got phenylthiamine in it, and what that is a central nervous stimulant, and also helps with neurotransmission, which helps with your mood. And I've got my notes here in front of me because I don't want to miss anything, and so I'm looking down at my notes, so I apologize for that. Hygienomine is, so when I talk about adipose tissue or your fat cells, they have, without getting into a lot of biology, they have what's called, I've talked a little bit about the receptor sites in your fat cells. There's receptor sites, and they're like little buttons on a remote control. And the two main ones are the alpha and the beta receptor sites. So the hygienomine is actually a beta-2 antagonist, and you can research that, which I encourage you to do a little bit more on your own. But basically what that does is that the hygienomine activates the beta receptors, which stimulate lipolysis, or the breakdown of fat. It triggers the body, into burning fat. So evotamine. Evotamine is really cool stuff. It's very similar to cayenne or capsicum. It's actually a thermogenic, so it heats the body up a little bit. And I can really tell when I use these products that have a little bit of evotamine in there. It raises your resting core temperature. So that's kind of a cool thing. When you combine all these ingredients together, it has a very synergistic effect. Makes for a very, very good product. It's also an appetite suppressant, and increases the release of adrenaline and dopamine from the adrenal glands. It gives you a lot of energy that way. And then yohimbe, hydrochloride. Yohimbe is an alpha-2, so it's affecting different receptor sites. So we've addressed the B's, the B2 and the alpha-2 receptors. Increases blood flow, so it increases circulation. And oxygen is really the catalyst for fat burning. If you can get more oxygen to a lipocyte or to your fat cells, it's the catalyst in burning or exciting the receptor sites in your adipose tissue and burning fat. So it basically delivers more oxygen to the lipocytes, and you have a greater chance of metabolizing fat that way. And then Qiajet is the delivery system, which is basically capsicum and gingerol. That is trademarked by One Vision. We're the only company that has that. And so that's basically the Revive Core. These products, as we talk about them, I've had different results. I get different results from the Ignite than I do with this product right here. I've used this product, but for me personally, that doesn't do a lot for me. And so I know that there's a lot of people watching on here that have used all three of these. And I'll use some examples as I talk about the other two, the Revive Hardcore and the Ignite, of some people that we know that have done really well on one of them that don't really see a lot with some of the others. So you've got three to choose from. I encourage you, if you have the money, to purchase all three of them and possibly rotate through those. So the Revive Hardcore is pretty much the opposite of the Revive Core. It focuses more on the fat burning and the energy, and a little bit less on the cognitive function. So We've already gone down through the ingredients. The ingredients are the same. The hypermetabolic energy, or the fat-burning component to this, is 325 milligrams, and it's caffeine, the B-phenylthiamine, the hygienamine, and the avotamine, and yohimbine, in that order. And then the neuroignition, or the cognitive complex behind this, is 125 milligrams, so there's not quite as much of that. One thing that I like to do, and I'll talk about the Ignite right now, and then I'll tell you how I use these products. So the Ignite is a newcomer to One Vision, and I love this product. I've done a lot of research. There's not many products in the marketplace that even have with Octadrene, the DMHA, in that. And you're starting to see a few more of them, but it's a relative newcomer to the industry, and there's just not a lot of products in the commercial marketplace that have that ingredient in there. But Octadrene, it's actually classified as a stimulant. There's not a lot of data out there right now on Octadrene. So if you get online and start to research, you'll see some stuff that's just like, well, the jury's not out on this. I feel it. My body is my jury. I know when something is working for me and when it's not working for me, and I really feel the effects of the Ignite. And I think it's because of the Octadrene and the other ingredients that are in here that have the catalytic effect, the synergistic effect on the body. So the Octadrene just kind of gives you a good feeling of euphoria, and kind of that wakeful feeling that you get. It makes me just really, really focused. It's very smooth energy for me. There's no crash from that. The Ignite gives you about 8 hours of energy. For me, it's 5, 6 hours, 7, 8 hours, possibly on some days, depending on how heavy my workouts are in the gym for that particular day. I take it almost on a daily basis right now, as I'm trying to cut a little bit more body fat. Green tea stimulate thermogenesis as well, so it increases the core temperature in the body, and it's extremely effective when it's added to caffeine. Caffeine is another ingredient in here. I won't go into that. We're all very familiar with caffeine. It's from a natural source. And green coffee bean extract, and the green coffee bean actually comes from the unroasted coffee bean, and it also has it's got a lot of antioxidants in it, but it contains chlorogenic acid, which is a powerful antioxidant, and it also helps regulate blood sugar. So it helps with appetite suppression, and it helps stimulate the metabolism. Bitter orange, otherwise known as synephrine. This is a very popular ingredient. It became very, very popular after the FDA banned ephedra. And I don't agree with that decision. I think ephedrine was very safe for those that were using it. There's a story behind ephedrine, and I think what happened with that was that the weight loss products that contained ephedrine in them were competing with the big pharmaceutical companies. And again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there's enough information out there to satisfy me in believing that particular ingredient was pulled for that reason. But anyway, synephrine arrived. Bitter orange had been around, but it kind of arrived as the replacement for ephedrine on the scene after ephedra disappeared. And the thing that I like about bitter orange or synephrine is that you don't get the jittery type feeling that you got with ephedrine. I used to, when I was competing, I used to use a lot of products that had ephedrine in them. They were kind of the big thing in the 90s and the early 2000s before those products were pulled from the marketplace. A lot of people that were good at cutting weight, or athletes that were trying to cut weight, we've all heard these stories, were using that product for that reason. But the downside to that was just the crazy jittery feeling that you had, and a doctor would never want to take that, or a pilot, I don't think, because you probably couldn't fly a plane or perform a surgery on somebody very effectively. So the bitter orange is a really good compound. It stimulates the metabolism and promotes weight loss by increasing the metabolic burn in your body, the rate at which your body burns energy. It's got Panax ginseng in that. Panax ginseng, we talked about that a little bit when we were talking about the Revive products. We talked about rhodiola. It's an adaptogen. It's just a feel-good compound, gives you a lot of natural energy, and just a good mood enhancer. Hordenine works to improve cognitive function, and it's also an adrenal stimulant and promotes thermogenesis in the body. So you've already got 3 ingredients in here that promote thermogenesis or raise core temperature. And folks, if you can, I just want to throw this out there. If any of you, we've all had fevers before, and when you're sick and you have a fever, you lose your appetite. And one of the reasons why is because when your body temperature is elevated, it forces your body into your oxidative energy cycle, and you're actually burning fat. And so, scientists started to theorize, hey, if we can raise core temperature, increase thermogenesis in the body even a little bit, you're going to burn fat a lot more effectively. So there's a lot of research that was out there that supported that if you can raise core temperature by 1/10 of 1 degree, that's not even enough to where you could measure it probably with certainly not with a standard thermometer, but even an electronic thermometer that's very sensitive, you'd have a hard time measuring that. But there's research that suggests that if you can raise core temperature even by 1/10 of 1 degree, that you're going to burn fat about 600% more effectively than by not having, than by not producing that thermogenic effect in the body. So when I use Ignite, I used it this morning before I went to the gym. I come out of the gym looking like I just got out of the shower, and that gym has a really nice air conditioning system in it. So evotamine is in here. That increases thermogenesis. FlowGuard basically is a combination of compounds that gives you extra B6 and B12 vitamins. Those vitamins help support adrenal function, so those are really good. It's always good to take a B vitamin if you're using a lot of thermogenics, a B complex, because you're replacing the B vitamins that are lost during that process. And Bioperin. Bioperin actually is a product that was researched and registered by a company called Sabinsa. They own the patent to that. And it comes from black pepper. And what it does is it increases the bioavailability of all these other products that are in this, or all the other ingredients that are in Ignite. And I've got to give Bruce, and I've got to give Todd, and I've got to give Dr. Sanderson a thumbs up for creating this product. You guys, in our world, we've seen everything.
We've tried lots of different things.
I'm always doing research on metabolic enhancers or metabolic spark plugs or fat burners, if you want to call them that. And I'm telling you what, we have 3 of the best products that you would ever come across, and especially with the Ignite, you're not going to go to your local nutrition store and find anything remotely close to that. This product works. It's phenomenal. So the way, let me look at our time really quick. Stay on point, just quickly. The way that I use this is I actually will use the Ignite in the morning before I go to the gym. It gives me a lot of energy. And I know another gentleman he's an athlete. He's a world-class athlete. I won't disclose his name right now, but he loves our products. He uses those. And he's a luminary in the industry. He uses the Ignite first thing because at his age, at 40, it helps him get out of bed and allows him to be motivated to get down in the gym and do his cardio. And then early in the afternoon, he actually takes the Revive Hardcore to give him the energy that he needs. He puts in a lot of long, hard hours, and he uses the Revive Hardcore in the afternoon to give him more energy. Alexis, how do you use Ignite?
Ignite is very strong for me. I'm a little bit more sensitive, so I actually take half of Ignite. I break open the capsule and I put about half into a little cup, add a little bit of water and drink that, and then the next time I take it, I take the rest of the capsule. And I don't take it every day. I don't need to lose weight, but I love it for the energy. I love to take it before my really hard classes like Tabata or some of my muscle classes. But I love the energy it gives me. Absolutely love it. I actually took Revive Hardcore for the first time today. Really liked that one too. I had a ton of energy. I just wanted to try it before we came on here and talked about it, but I was sweating like crazy. And it was good too. I took a whole one. I didn't seem to have any problems with that one. If I take a whole Ignite, it makes me a little bit jittery. And like Paul was saying, some people do really well on the Ignite. Some people don't feel anything. Some people prefer the Revive Hardcore. Charlie has talked to lots of different people that will cycle through them, and I think that's just a really, really smart way to do it if you're trying to lose weight, because they're all going to affect your body a little bit different. And then when you get to the Revive Core, it's actually going to be like taking a day off so that you can give your receptor sites a little break, give your adrenals a little break, fresh. And then, you know, hit it with the Ignite again. I think that's a really, really smart way to do it. So,
you know, these do affect everybody a little bit different. Everybody's chemical makeup is a little bit different. Everyone's chemistry is a little bit different. So it's something that you may want to just play around a little bit with, experiment with. But don't just take it for a day or two and just give up on it. You know, I would give each one of these, if you're trying to figure out what works best for you, at least a week. I would, you know, give them a good 5 to 7 days and just see what they're doing for you. Everybody is very in touch with their own bodies and knows what works and doesn't work. You can feel the effects. I feel it immediately. They've helped me get from point A to point B much quicker. I always use this, you know, and I think I've said this before, they're not the end-all be-all. They'll help you reach your weight loss goals much faster. They help you get from point A to point B quicker. It's like taking a jet airplane from New York to LA as opposed to taking a single engine plane. And use them with caution. You know, in the morning, a lot of people like to drink coffee, and sometimes if you're drinking coffee, which has a lot of caffeine, especially if you're grinding your own beans like we do, and then you're throwing these products on top of that without food in your stomach, you know, it can be a little over the top. And so just be conscious of what you're doing on top of these products or what you're not doing. And that pretty much wraps that up. We could go on and on forever, literally, with weight loss. It's a huge category, a lot of focus on this particular topic. There's a lot of information out there, which I encourage everybody to do research on their own. I'm a big believer in just being a student. There's a lot of great education out there.
Let me show a picture of the Ignite.
This is probably coming through backwards on over the net. But anyways, great product, you guys. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about the Balance. These are our core products. These are Superman and Wonder Woman, folks. You ought to be taking them every day. If you haven't had a chance, go back to Share Your Vision, get online and watch our programs on these products. We're going to circle the wagons again and come back to these two products here shortly. Amazon Power Blend helps with oxidative stress. The One Vision Balance Prebiotic helps with the friendly flora in the gut and with your gut health. Next week, we are going to talk about, actually, Alexis is going to do most of the speaking.
We're going to talk about the Amavita skin line. This is a cleanser. You use this to wash your face. Then you use the serum. I like to use the serum around fine lines and wrinkles. And then I follow it up with the moisturizer. My sister's a cosmetologist. She loves these products. What she likes to do is she uses the serum at night, and then the following morning she likes to use the moisturizer. So that's just another way to do it. And we're going to do our homework, like I said last time, and really get into these products and really find out you know, what makes them so effective. I know that they all three have the Kupuasu, the acai, and the camu, which are antioxidant fruits from the Amazon, and have extremely high antioxidant abilities, and plus they have vitamin C, and we all know that those antioxidants are so wonderful for our skin. So we'll go into more of that. So
next week, stay tuned, because we're going to talk about the Amavita line, and then after that we're going to circle back around again and get into a little bit more detail with the Balance the following week. So folks, we appreciate you taking time to be on this call today.
Thank you so much.
And we appreciate you being on your own wellness journey, and the fact that for all of you that are using the One Vision products, thank you so much. They're great products. And for those of you that have not had a chance to experience those, get with the person that invited you to this call today, to this program, and try those for yourself. I guarantee you will be satisfied and happy with the results that you see. With that being said, have a fantastic week, and we'll see you again next Thursday.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.